What was it about special education that said, okay, this is what I want to do?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I always had planned since I started college in 2006 to go into education in some way. I studied music and art, like you already know, and I was planning on kind of pursuing that more. But my interests changed just based on just knowing that there's a lack of jobs in the arts was kind of part of it, and also I just kind of started losing interest and looked at it as more of a hobby. So when I decided to go into SPED, I was actually working on my minor for my major was in art studies, and I was getting a minor in elementary education, actually. But after taking I think it was the Survey for Exceptional Learners class, like the very basic intro SPED class, I started really, really getting interested in working with more diverse learners versus going into more general education. And then probably the thing that really made up my mind was doing Mount Hood Kiwanis Camp last summer, yeah, a year ago, and it was really awesome. And since then, I've had more experience working with people with disabilities. And yeah, I just really saw that and thought, I could do that and education.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Was there a specific moment at Kiwanis Camp that you'll always remember?
Um, I think the moment that, I mean, I was interested in it before I went to camp, and that was kind of my way of confirming whether it's something I could hopefully handle in the future. I think it was probably the end of my first week. I was working with, it was with the adult group and with a man who, when his mom came to pick him up, just said, wow, I've never seen anyone still smiling at the end of the week of camp, because he's been going for like 13 years, I think. And that was just like such a compliment and really made me feel a lot more confident in my skills, because it was a really intense week and a lot of, behavior challenges that I've never, never worked with at all. So it was kind of nice to hear that from someone who, a family member. So
Yeah, that's
but yeah, it was a great experience. There were so many, yeah, really encouraging
yeah,
times. Super fun.
that's
But
great.
yeah.
What have you liked so far about the program? I know a few other folks have said, the small class sizes, the cohort model. What
hmm
that you've enjoyed?
Definitely the cohort model has been great, just like kind of forming relationships with other students and kind of having that support system that I've never had that in undergrad, because, Portland State's I went here for my undergrad as well, a pretty big school, and I usually felt pretty on my own in classes. So I really enjoyed the model of having, a pretty close knit group. And the professors, that was a lot of the reason why I decided to do grad school here at Portland State, because I had a really good impression of the SPED and just the School of Education faculty members in general during my undergrad. So that's been really great. They're really knowledgeable and approachable and awesome people. So,
That's great.
yeah.
So what do you think, with your background already in music and art, and then now that you're going to be getting your master's in special education, what do you see yourself doing in 5 years? I mean, combining the
I've
two,
been thinking about that.
yeah,
I do want to be able to incorporate like my background in the arts in some way, just because it's a part of me that's really important to me, and I love to hopefully be able to incorporate that. I haven't quite wrapped my mind around how to go about that, but I do want to teach in the public school system, at least for a while, to have that experience. That's been a goal I've had. But yeah, hopefully to be able to bring in my experience like with the creative arts either into my own classroom or somehow into my teaching practice in the future. But I'm still working out how I might want to do that. But
yeah.
yeah.
And my last question,
hmm
um, and this is something I'm going to be asking because personal experiences, I didn't really have a good grasp on what special education actually entailed. Yeah, I always thought it was working with someone that had, severe physical or emotional or, um, you know, disabilities, to be honest with you.
hmm
So prior to going to Kiwanis Camp, what did you think of special education?
Similar to what you described, although I really have had in my mind special education, I was always very intimidated by it, thinking about being a teacher, and that was why I didn't really consider going into it for a lot of years, was that I assumed it was mainly just dealing with really, really challenging behaviors. And I had that more of that, either that or the more significant like physical disabilities. And instead of looking at it as how I'm starting to see it more now is just looking at each individual learner, regardless really of what their disability is or what usually is a characteristic of that disability, and just looking at what their needs at that time are and going from there, which has made it feel a lot more approachable and a little less intimidating. And that's what's really interesting to me about it, is the really individual aspect, because I feel like in general education that can be lacking a lot. I think it's something that's really important and needs to be incorporated.
Yeah, that's
so,
great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.